You're listening to your favorite podcast about Flesh and Blood and its community. Welcome to Last Ditch Effort. Yeah, welcome back to Last Ditch Effort.
Yeah, welcome back. It's been a while. I think we've all been busy with life and with recent developments in Fab, grinding armories. How have you been the last couple of weeks, Luis?
Oh, I've been great. We've been playing a lot of draft, and this new draft format is absolutely fantastic. I really love that. I feel like all three heroes are evenly matched, and I think it's the first time in draft for quite a while that I felt that every hero is not just playable in certain situations, but like dead even.
Yeah. I've also been drafting a lot, and for me, it was a roller coaster. In the beginning, I was like, "This is amazing," and then I got beat like 3 drafts in a row by super strong Majestics, and I was like, "This draft format is the most stupid thing ever." And now I'm back on like, oh, actually, there are outs to so many plays, and I need to practice more. I think Zen seems to be the strongest of all, though, at least in the drafts I've been involved. It was usually 2 Zens at the top tables, and that is, I think, because Zen is probably underdrafted where we play, because it's always like more news sometimes than Zens at a table, and I think it should not be this way. But other than that,
I think Zen is really easy. You can easily support 3 or even sometimes 4 Zens in one draft table. Whereas for New and Enigma, you really want to be like 1 out of 2. Sometimes 1 out of 3 is okay.
I think there are different angles to those heroes. So sometimes you don't even recognize that other people are drafting the same hero because they go for maybe a slightly different build. But yeah, I think usually there should be more Zens than other heroes, and I think then it balances out quite well.
I mean, Zen can still output like a stupid amount of damage, especially if he opens like really strong Majestics in the pool.
Yeah, Chase the Tail hits different in Limited.
Yeah, definitely. It's real good in Constructed too. Let's not forget. But like in Limited, 1 for 7 is pretty broken.
But still, there are outs, right? And I think the more I draft this set and the more I play the set, I realize all those games that I kept losing is not because of of their bomb Majestic, but because of like maybe I tilted sometimes, or maybe it's just like not blocking efficiently enough in turns earlier and just not having the life buffer to overcome these situations. So I think it's really a learning process for me. And now I slowly start to actually get into this space where I'm like, okay, this is a cool format. And yeah, as long as you go 2-1 in draft at Nationals, I think it's fine.
Yeah. How do you think the generics in this set work? When I first started to draft the set, I picked the generics incredibly highly. Like I would first pick pretty much every red generic with like the attacks. I mean,
yeah.
And now I'm a little bit off that. Like I think Red Blanche is still the best card to first pick, probably.
Yeah, it's such a good card, yeah.
But then after that, I don't know that I would take the 3 for 7 over like a really good class card.
Yeah, I think there are different philosophies, right? There are the people that want to lock in, pack one, pick one, because then they send signals that they are on this class to the people on their left. Mm-hmm. And this can backfire if the person to your right accidentally happens to do the exact same thing. Then you get a little bit punished. Then there are the people that stay open, and we drafted, right? Was it yesterday? Yes, we drafted. And one draft, it felt like people are just staying open too long. So you're 6 picks in and you can't make a reading what the people like ahead of you are drafting. And that makes it like also very tough, because then at one point everyone locks in potentially on the same hero. And then it's this weird dynamic between like, you don't want to force, but how long do you want to stay open? And I think that is like a personal thing, right? I've been talking to a friend a lot about pack one, pick ones. Every time we disagree, like I'm always the one who picks like the generic, like the Battlefront Bastion, or like what do you do if there is a red Vexing Spectre in there, another good illusionist card, and then all the other classes are mediocre? Do you pick the good illusionist card, but the person next to you gets like the signal, oh, there is still a strong illusionist card in there? Or do you pick the generic? Or then do you like intentionally choose a different class because you know, oh, there are two good illusionist cards, so the next two people will be illusionists potentially, so I will get pack two very rewarded. So there is this weird dynamic, and I think LSS did a great job, because I think MST, at least to me, is one of the deepest draft formats, because every draft feels different.
Especially when it comes to sending signals, I feel like I remember something that Yuki Lee Bender said on her podcast, which was like, just don't bother about other people reading signals. With the idea is you don't even know that they will bother about reading signals. Like, I think there is a good amount of people that play Flesh and Blood that either don't care about draft and just force whatever like their favorite hero is, or they don't play it enough that they read the signals at all, or they just pick whatever they think is like good. And if you think that you're taking a bit of a worse card at the cost of staying open, or like at this cost of like, oh, I'm going to send this signal and it's going to reward me later, I feel like that's almost always a trap. Like, unless you really know the drafters at your table and you're sitting next to someone who you absolutely know will look out for signals, just don't bother to think about what signals you're sending. Just try to read the signals that you're getting past.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I agree. It's like we should not probably assume that the average drafter, wherever you are, is like playing 5D chess with the rest of the table. Because also, like, I was recently testing online and then talking to some people, like streaming, and then someone picks a card, pack one, pick one, and I like, to me, it did not make sense that this card gets pick one, pick one in this pack. And then I asked, like, why did you pick this one? And they were like, yeah, it's just based on vibes. And they got completely rewarded. Like, holy shit, like, it was just the right thing to do. But then in hindsight, you know, right? But at that stage, they were just like, yeah, it's just based on vibes.
Yeah.
I think people still draft completely based on vibes. If there are a couple of people at one table that just pick like the coolest artwork, or what they think is like the best card, without having tested before, it still might be that they 3-0 the draft, right? Because it's like, it's unconventional, it's unpredictable, it's like, never let them know your next move in a way. And it makes it for the people at the table that try to read signals and that try to map all the heroes, it makes it so much more difficult for them. And I think that's actually a cool thing. Like, some people sometimes complain that, oh, if I draft with people that don't know how to draft, it ruins my draft experience.
Oh, that's the worst complaint.
Yeah, I mean, I get where they're coming from, but it's like, adjust. Just adjust to your situation in which you are, and this can happen at top tables. This might not.
I think usually what happens when someone complains about that is either they try to force something that wasn't open, or they switch to something that they thought was open but ended up not being open, and they did not foresee that they like cannot switch back or something like that. And then they're like, oh, other people ruined my draft. But especially in this set where there are so many cards that are playable in every deck, I feel like people claiming that is ridiculous.
Also, recently I was just drafting random generic pile, and then I switched into some hero at the exact same time as someone else pivoted into this hero. And then you can really be like whoops, now suddenly there is not one new, but there are 3 or 4 news at this table, just because everyone was like reading too much into the picks and they all switched at the same time. I like this draft format. I really do like this draft format. If we would have recorded a week ago, I think my stance would have been slightly different, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When we first started, it seemed like Zen was much more powerful than the other heroes.
No.
But I think it just comes down to that it's the easiest to build and to play. It's quite straightforward. The combos are very good. Transcending seems much easier in Zen than most other classes, just because he has natural blue go-agains in the form of like good go-agains that are just happen to be in blue, like Untamed, just a very good blue, I feel like, because it's essentially still a 1-for-3 if you can also transcend, play the tiger, search your card, and so on. So he just gets to kind of transcend for no cost at all. Whereas the other heroes, I feel like especially Enigma can sometimes be a little bit punished when you really want to block out an attack or something and you have 2 transcend cards, and then it's like very awkward because you can only like make spectral shields with them.
Yeah, my stance on Zen and Transcend is like you can draft a 3/0 Zen deck without a Transcend card.
Yeah, you can. I feel like it's really nice to have like 1 or 2, but it's not necessary.
I think that's the problem that I have with Zen, that like the other heroes really, especially Enigma, right? They want to activate their hero ability. And Zen, okay, you will get that tiger and you will get the combo card that you need. But usually you will be playing your entire deck, or you will go through first cycle for sure. So tutoring not always necessarily is required, because you'll see your power cards at a later turn and you'll get the tigers with other effects too. And okay, you can say with Enigma you get your spectral shields too, but most of them without counters, right? And Zen is just like you can put so much pressure without the downside of having a cantrip on a blue that does not block. So you can just build a very consistent, very strong, aggressive Zen deck that can still use the leftover blue in hand to block or something like this.
Yeah, I feel like you in Zen specifically, you only want the good like transcend cards. Like for Zen, you want the preserved traditions, or you want the path well traveled, stuff like that.
Yeah.
In the other heroes, you're more willing to like add an extra transcend card for it to be a transcend card, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Just for the sake of it. Like in Enigma, I don't mind to have 2 stir the pots. Like,
yeah, exactly. But in Zen, I feel like you kind of only, you want the transcend cards that are really good, and then 1 or 2 is like enough for your deck to function properly.
Yeah.
Especially also since drawing 2 at the same time is kind of bad in Zen, where it's like it's might be okay in other heroes.
No. But having said that, I think the draft format is really deep, and every draft is something new for me. And every draft also, I challenge myself with like, okay, today now I try this, and now I try that, and I think that's cool. Like if it's so deep that after, I don't know, a couple of drafts, I'm still enjoying it and discover new cool interaction and so things I can do wrong. But I think yeah, MST draft is very deep, and there are underexplored strategies for sure. So I've been really enjoying this draft season so far. I don't know that it's the best limited experience, but it's definitely up there as one of the better ones. To me, it's the best also because of the aesthetics, because I like the aesthetics of this set a lot. I think the heroes look cool, and everything is so flavorful with what the heroes do. It's
just a really exciting set to open as well. There's like a lot of marvels that you can hit. There's like the gold packs that are in the displays.
Yeah, we were drafting yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And our co-host Ralph, he comes with a display and distributes packs, and I'm like, yo, there's a gold pack in there, without knowing that there is. I was just like creating hype, right? And later he comes to me like, yo, there really is a gold pack in there. And then we raffled it away. It was like so nice. So yeah, it creates so much excitement at so many levels. Also, the common cold foils, I think they look cool. Like,
Yeah.
they're just so beautiful, and trying to collect a set of all of these is definitely like on my list.
There's just a lot of cool stuff to open. I feel like all of the expansion slot cards are also impactful. Like Kindle, Murky Waters, they're all like good cards. Or like what is it? Visit the Goldman Estate. They're all cards that are like instantly played in the decks that they should go into. And so like opening the set has just been like kind of really rewarding. Like regardless of, even if you don't really care about anything else, but like the dopamine hits of like opening cool cards is definitely
that is true.
Available in this set.
Yeah, that is true. I opened way too much product in this set, and now I don't have space for my bulk anymore. So
on the right side of my computer, there's just a tower building with cards that I need to sort because I've been opening too much stuff.
Yeah, so next set for me is only singles because I don't have space. We have a tiny flat, right? So it's very limited. I'm already running downstairs to the basement whenever I'm looking for a card from History Pack, and then I'm in the basement for half an hour digging through boxes. It's like, it's not a sustainable way. So yeah, I think singles from now on.
I've been really trying, and I would say up to 2 sets ago, maybe, I've been so diligent about putting everything in boxes in a way and like it's organized. But this set, I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And now, once you get a backlog, it's over. Like now, it's just piling up, and there's no catching up because you just keep putting more and more on.
Then you come home from drafting, like you might have not unsleeved your draft deck yet, and then it creates more chaos, and it's like these random rares in your bulk, and then the foil. Yeah, don't get me started. I spent quite some time yesterday to sort through some cards because I was looking through some stuff for nationals. Which is, I think, a good segue into our next topic, right? Because it's not only limited, it's not only draft MST these days, but it's national championship season, week 2, just wrapping up right now, basically. The German-Swiss Nationals was finished, I think, a couple of hours ago. And of course, the CC metagame is completely different than it was when we last recorded. What are your thoughts?
this set has been so impactful on CC. Actually, I don't think we have ever seen a set be quite this impactful.
KO was quite.
KO was good. KO was impactful, but none of the other heroes there were that impactful. And now with this new set, all of the heroes are top decks, right? Like New, Enigma, and Zen all stand out as being very, very good. Talents are back, and immediately, like, you see them at the top tables again.
Yeah, but from those sets now, I mean, there are some parallels to Uprising, right? Also, there was this 3-hero draft format where the ninja was supposedly stronger than the other classes, and some archetypes might have been underexplored. What do you think is the Icelander of this set?
I mean, just face value, it would probably be New.
Yeah, because I've been thinking about this a lot. If Icelander were legal, I think I would play Icelander right now. But then also, I'm not sure because Illusionist is potentially quite good. But to me, I'm not sure if because you can build an Enigma deck also quite disruptive, and you can build a new deck quite disruptive. But I think you're right. It feels like this disruption on the headpiece feels a little bit like very Icelander-ish.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
don't
exactly.
need to compare to past metagames, right? But I've been hearing this this comparison to Uprising and this
I mean,
there are new
even like
heroes on the block right now.
I wouldn't go that far. Like new definitely is not as disruptive as Icelander was, but Icelander was just crazy disruptive. Like, but she also had to be because the meta game was in such a different state. Like people who say now that like Zen is like so powerful, and he's very very powerful, but like compared to what like Chain and Starbow used to do, like it's really not that bad. And Icelander was kind of designed at a time where she was meant to disrupt those decks, right?
Yeah.
So
But
now New, I think, is on an equal power level with the disruption as like some of the aggressive decks we see now.
yeah, and I think Nu can put you in these spots where you're like you can't do anything right, because
Yeah.
if you overblock, you don't have an hand, your stuff gets banished. If you don't block enough and you don't have a defense reaction, your stuff will get banished from hand, and like worst case scenario, you will lose multiple copies of that card from deck or something like this. Every time I play Nu into, for example, Zen, I'm like, okay, my late game win condition is to beat them with their own deck. And because Zen cannot afford to not run blues the way that Zen decks are built these days. And then it's just like this looming doom of you banish more and more cards accumulate in your banish zone, and then there's like 3 blue 100 wins, 2 ancestral harmonies. We've seen it, right? The national championship in Germany, the finals was Zen versus Nu, and I think in the last turn the Nu dealt 20 plus damage out of banish zone from Zen with Go Again, with triple ancestral harmony and double descendant, double 100 wins, and another blue plus fluster fist. That was just like peak Nu gameplay, right? And to get to this situation, Nu did disrupt hands, did disrupt arsenal, did disrupt deck. So I think it's I really really like the Nu play patterns. If only it were a little bit better against some of the decks. It has downfalls, or it is a bit too slow.
Yeah, and I think since her game plan is like very disruptive, I think she has to play like quite reactive compared to some of the aggro decks in the format. And I think in this current meta, playing reactionary, like reaction to the meta is kind of hard because the meta is still quite open. And there are a lot of decks that you have to keep in mind when you're building a list for your national championships, especially in like if you know your local meta very well. It's not impossible for sure, but I feel like especially at bigger tournaments, it could be very hard to predict all the heroes you will face, right? And the strategies that you will face also require very different tools. Like playing against Prism is so different than playing against Zen, that you kind of cannot, like, it's bringing a preparation for everything is very hard.
Yes, and I fully agree, and I think we've seen Nu be successful in metas that are very, I would call it meta chasing environments, right? Where there are a lot of Zens, there are a lot of KOs, there might be the one or the other Azalea in the top decks, and there aren't too many, let's call it underdog strategies around that might be
not many surprises.
Yeah, not many surprises, because I would be very hesitant to bring Nu into a field of just illusionists and wizards. Like, I think that is probably not the environment you want to be playing Nu. So yeah, it's, if you have these meta chasing local metagames or national championship metagames, it's a perfectly reasonable pick. But I've been on and off new the last couple of, I think in the last 72 hours, I changed my deck probably 5 times. And new was one of those, because like every time you play new into some matchup that is winnable, it feels like you're invincible. You're playing such a good deck. You disrupt until you draw this hand of 3 or 4 attack reactions. No attack, they're all red or something like this, and then you're like, whoops, 12 block, I guess. Yeah, and then you run into Prism, Enigma, Kano. It can get rough at times. So yeah, we've been talking about new more than we're talking about Zen, but let's talk about like the objectively best deck in the format, or at least the one that has the highest potential damage output on a turn to turn basis. I think there are some cool new Zen techs out there.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I think is incredibly cool with Zen. There are so many different strategies that we've seen be successful. Like, I feel like every week we see some kind of development on the deck list that are all very good. Like, they're all like kind of an improvement on the last one, and like seeing this list evolve from like, oh, we're just playing rainbow bonds of ancestry and trying to like do some stupid like combo, to like a more tuned list that we saw at US Nats with the two daggers that break, all the way now to this UK winning list with Talishar. It's just been so cool to see.
Yeah, I think yeah, those the the revolution, right, going from Tiger taming Kakara to Zephyr Needles to force those blocks to just raise them, to hold on, Talisha is actually 2 Zephyr Needles, and I can do it 3 times. That sounds better. And then it in a way it makes sense, right? It's just the evolution of Zendex in this metagame, and I think this is super exciting, and I think it's super cool. Between like those 9 bonds lists and the ones that lean more onto the tiger synergies and the majestic that can make your tigers gust waves and bonds and things like this, I think there are so many cool different viable Zen strategies, but they all share that they can get disrupted quite heavy, right? They are all glass cannon builds in a way, with the exception of having a fridge block once. Like you can block a CNC once cleanly with your equipments, or an amnesia or a weakest link or whatever disruption new might throw at you. But if they don't get disrupted, they can do enormous damage turn cycles.
Yeah, I think this part has been kind of unprecedented for ninjas, I believe. Like, even Katsu like depended on the on hit a little bit too much to like put out these kind of numbers, whereas Zen just kind of does his thing. So you really have to disrupt him on like your turn. Once it's his turn, there's like you can just watch him kill you, basically. Like, there's no amount of blocking you can do to really stop him from putting out 35 damage turns.
Yeah
Which, I don't know, it feels a little bit uninteractive at times.
I mean, you have outs like Amulet of Echoes, for example, right?
Yeah, it's not that there's no outs, it's just that the outs kind of aren't that good, if
And
that makes sense.
They have to line up, right? I once played a Zen who double Art of War turned me, and I had 3 Hold Alliance in hand. I'll take it. Thank you very much. I'll take it. But it's like, that doesn't happen always. Like, it has to line up. Yeah. So Zen can risk roll you, but you can, with a little bit of disruption, you can really make the Zen not be able to play their game plan. And I think that's why we've seen not as many Zens on the LL leaderboard as some might have been expected, because there are some disruptive tools in the metagame, and people get more and more creative with like things like Amulet of Echoes or
No,
Or
there are certainly strategies that disrupt Zen. I do think it is probably the most powerful thing to just do, if that makes sense. Like
in a vacuum. Yeah.
if you look at it in a vacuum, it is just like incredible how much damage this deck can put out and how consistent it is, especially with like Traverse the Universe. And also the chess piece that just keeps generating resources has also been like if you try to break down the value generated in a single turn, it's just mind numbing.
Yep. Also, the legs that give you Art of War banish material straight to your hand, deal with it. I think it's like it's all coming together, and those lists get more and more tuned. However, I think it's not a deck that is very easy to play. I think it's straightforward to play it good, but to play it very, very good, I think you need a lot of reps. We've seen people on stream like choosing cards of a Zen activation that don't make sense at first sight, but then 3 turn cycles later, you're like, they wanted to get this card into the grave so that now they're in their Bond's turn, they can like get this chase the tail at this position. Like it just makes sense. If you watch good Zen players, it's such a beautiful thing because after the game you can go back and every decision was like, oh, this was actually planning ahead and not just playing a turn base. And I think that's beautiful if you can do this. What I dislike about the deck is that your second cycle is just random because you shuffle your deck so much. So a fundamental part of Flesh and Blood that is like carefully setting up your pitch stack and things like this is just like not relevant because you shuffle either way. Yeah.
I will say this deck more so than any other deck has made me want the return of ice, if that makes sense, which is just something that I never thought I would say because I was not a huge fan of when ice was in the format.
Yeah, but imagine ice being in the format. Okay, you give them 3 frostbites or 4 or whatever, Channel Lake Frigid, and they're so blue heavy, they just like pitch 3 blues, play Levels of Enlightenment, all modes are online, and they just continue with their turn, and you're like, well, what am I even doing here?
Yeah, but if you like the math on like if you play a Channel Lake Frigid, for example, they're not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
Like they can't, like if they want to transcend, they have to pay one, like they have to pay 1 extra for the first blue they want to play. They have to pay 1 extra to play their transcend card. Then they have to pay 1 extra to activate the hero ability. Then they have to pay 1 extra to play the Crouching Tiger, and they have to pay 1 extra to play the card they went looking for. Yeah, if Channel Lake Frigid would shut down this whole deck. The same goes for Channel the Bleak Expanse, where you cannot draw or search your deck for cards. Once Ice returns to the format, I think Zen is no longer going to be in this
format. Zen is a living legend. Don't worry.
Yeah. well, let's see. We never know what LSS has up their sleeve for next set. Maybe we'll return to Volcor and Icelander will be the new queen of Volcor.
I mean, we know we go back to Aria, right?
Exactly.
Because it's Rosetta and it looks like it's an Earth and Lightning only party this time, but
no ice yet.
We'll talk about this another time. But are there any breakout decks that you want to talk about that we should be watching out for Swiss nationals? Or I mean, it's completely fine to say, oh, I don't want to spoil my secret tech here because I'm certainly not gonna spoil my secret tech. I don't even know what I'm gonna play yet. So
no, I mean I want to spoil my secret deck. I'm going to play Dash, and it's not that much of a secret. I just kind of wanted to play this hero before Living Legends, and it's very close now. And finally, we've seen a winning list with Hanabi Blasters, something that I've been playing for a long time, actually.
Yeah, when it came out, I remember it was like probably one of the first armories that we played against each other.
Yeah.
I get paired it to you, and then I have to read your gun that is not a pistol or whatever. And I'm like, what is this Hanabi blaster thing? And then I just get pew pew lasered out of like.
And I was like,
this
always like,
world.
no, this card is good. Why is no one playing it? And some people did play it. Like, I'm not going to say I like innovated or anything. I think the potential was always there. It was just that now with no heavy disruption in the format, the way that like Icelander was, and like this, a lot of matchups come down to just racing, and then Hanabi Blaster is just so much value. Like, it's, if you can attack twice, it's basically 10 damage just free. On top of the already like high output of damage that you have, right?
Yeah.
So I think I will be playing some version of this dash list. I don't know if I'm going to play full aggro or switchboard, like with the pistol plan in the sideboard. So far, I've seen both strategies like be successful, although I don't really know like what the exact over under is on all of these matchups.
Yeah, I think also it's depending on how much slow decks you expect.
Yeah.
Where you would want to maybe play a little bit more defensively instead of full boost to just not get fatigued. But then if it's all just sense, then yeah, just T-bone away their equipment, load up your Hanabi blaster.
Yeah, and that's another thing when that really kind of pulls me to this deck, because I feel like more so than anything, getting Zen's equipment out of the way just gives you so much value. Like, removing a traverse without him being able to search just is like 6-7 points of value just of a card that is just a boost attack, right? Like,
yeah,
the incidental value is insane. The same goes for the chess piece that sometimes, like in his pop-off turn, can just generate like 2 to 3 resources, and then if you just get it out of the way.
I think Zen is very, very fragile for equipment disruption. And I mean, Nu less, right? Because Nu can just block with legs and arms all over again. And again and again and again. Enigma is a little bit fragile too, but sometimes they're on Phantasmal Footsteps, depending on which RPs they run. I know which RPs I will be running if I were to play Enigma and if I were to get paired into a dash. But it's also something that can block every turn.
Yeah, but it's also one of these things that it just, you run into these situations again and again where people, they either don't think about it or they just don't think about dash at all, or they like they don't think about, like they just think like, oh, I'll just run this and this strategy, and then you just double T. But like, I've played a game against Enigma where she didn't run, she ran Meridian Pathway, which doesn't block, like it has no block value, and then in the arm slot she ran
something
the
cloaked.
ward item that also does it, like the one that gives you a spectral shield that also doesn't block. So first turn I double T-bone, then I killed her tunic and her headpiece like before the game started, and it's so devastating.
Oh, no, what are you doing, Enigma?
So there's definitely like situations where either people don't think about it, don't play around it, don't have anything to put there, or like even if they do, like if they put a null rune equipment in their foot slot so that like they can block something with it, that's also fine by me, right? Like that's less value for them.
You don't want to play with actual legs? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think Dash is in a good spot, and I've been talking to Angus, one of our locals, and like he has some ideas about Dash that really make me want to play Dash, and that is not a spot I've ever been in in my Fab career. So it's actually, the sauce is real for sure, and I think like there are just so many different angles you can attack Dash with. It's not just this I boost everything Unga Bunga deck anymore. It might have actually never really been that way, but that was how I perceived it early when I started playing Flesh and Blood, and that's why I never really was drawn to the deck, but I think there are so many angles and so many cool things you can do with a deck and with item choices and with which starting item do you choose in which matchup. I think it's very delicate and skill intensive. So
yeah, it's a cool deck. And also, like, thinking of Swiss national specifically, like, there's going to be lots of people playing Kano. Is Switzerland? There's we have like some really good Kanos, so I need a good or decent Kano matchup, and I think Dash has the best Kano matchup in the meta, at least currently.
I can think of some decks that have way better Kano matchups. For example, our favorite yellow illusionist, but
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, there's other good choices.
Yeah, but I think with Dash you're not completely lost.
Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit about Enigma? Maybe that's the only new hero we haven't really hit on yet.
Yes, we can talk a little bit about Enigma. I have the list here of Valentin Makl, who won the Austria National Championship. And like their Enigma list looks very much like your typical Cosmo list. I mean, right now there are Cosmo lists, right? That care a lot about ward. Then there are the refractor builds, and then there are the iris builds. Then there are even like hybrids or decks that try to put all three in. Like I've seen some crazy things. But they actually lean on very heavily also on this. Oh, I have to beat Zen, so I need disruption angle. Like they're playing 3 Amnesia, 3 CNC, 3 Phantasmaclasm, which is like 9 pieces of basically hand and or arsenal disruption. And in addition to that, they run like 3 dense blue mist, which is the blue instant that gives all attacks that target you that turn you play -1, and it's a blue 1 cost, so you can play it off Tunic. The second part of the text is usually not very relevant in the Zen matchup. It's like if a Chi was pitched to play this, effects don't trigger if an attack hits you this turn. But this becomes relevant in the Azalea matchup, for example, where really this on-hit trigger prevent 3 blood rots or something like this can become quite relevant. The interesting thing is they are on the Shimmer's haste bending, as opposed to the other lists that prefer to play red spectral manifestations and things like this, or there are different builds there. They're on haste bending Shimmers to distribute the +1 counters, which you often see more in like a refractor build. So my guess is maybe they had a switchboard at one point, and then figured out actually Cosmos just enough. Of course, every Enigma deck has 3 levels of enlightenment, which was a reason for me not to play the hero because this card is horrendously expensive. And yeah, it does have some red auras, 3 vexing specters. I've seen people run anything between 0 and 3 here. If you draw out more than 2 in one hand, it's very awkward, or it can become very awkward. So yeah, we see the dissolve realities, which many illusionists play these days to add a little bit of arsenal disruption. The dead all you gots also for the Zen matchup. So it seems like they're very taking a lot that Zen does not have an arsenal, and that they get their blocking value in with dead all you got, dense blue mists. Hold the lines, good against the brutes as well, right? So I think this is a very good example of a nice Enigma list that you can just pick up and play, but it will probably take you 50 games until you figure out actually what all your cards do, what the cool interactions are, when to activate your uphold tradition, or when to play other arm pieces over your uphold traditions. They also have the Stonewall Gauntlet. So it seems like a list that is very much prepared for Zen, up to a point where some people might ask, I could just run all those same cards in new. Why should I be playing Enigma? I think that is a very valid question, but I think it also there are a few reasons why you would play Enigma over Nu, and I think it's local meta dependent, right? But you can build an Enigma deck that is very similar to a Nu deck, and you can build a Nu deck that is very similar to an Enigma deck. It's just like your win conditions slightly change, and I think that's okay, right? They share the mystic talent. You could be playing all those cards in Zen, right? You could do like a Zen Nu cosplay deck that everyone just boards in their crazy disruption things, and then you just like block 6 every turn and attack with a disruptive red attack. I mean, why not? You can do that. You can do whatever. You're a mystic.
Or should you though?
Yeah, but I mean, maybe that's the spice. Maybe I should be playing this.
I honestly could see in the future kind of like a more defensive oriented, like especially once disruption comes back in like a bigger way, like once we get cards that really shut you down. I could see a deck that's more kind of like the mid-range Katsu style but with Zen, and just playing all these good Mystic cards that we got printed in this set, you know, like playing the kinds of levels of enlightenment and these sort of things, right?
Yeah.
Levels of enlightenment is the only thing that comes to mind, but there's other cards.
Yeah, I think, maybe, but then why would you be on Zen and not on any other hero, right? Because if you want to play the mid-range game, you need to have some offensive disruption or some relevant on-hits. And if your on-hit is, I make a Crouching Tiger that attacks for 0, then I don't know if you could call that relevant. But yeah, maybe in the future there will be more mystic heroes, right? Maybe in 5 years or in 3 years or in 1 year, we have a mystic wizard that wants to disrupt and play a mid-range game. Who knows? But yeah, I think Enigma is in a good position if you tech for specific matchups, but as all the other heroes, right, it has weaknesses. And why would you play this over a Zen these days? I don't know. Because as a Zen, you can also just beat a Zen. Also, why would you not play Nu instead of this to have a little bit more arsenal disruption, a little bit more hand disruption? But then I think the Nu matchup as Enigma is all right. And I think the matchup into Prism, if you are on Enigma, is probably better than if you were on Nu. So there are a few reasons to be on this deck, and I think it worked out for Valentin, right? He won the Austria National Championships. Respect. The deck looks really fun. It looks like something people could pick up, similar to like the Sen game, the Talishar Sen game. Deck, the Talishar Zen deck that is also posted on like the Fab TCG website. Yeah, I think with so many resources out there and so much spice running around, I think, you could play literally any deck, I think, except maybe Olympia or or Teklo, and be like a contender for your national championship. And I'm not hating on these heroes. I just think that they don't have the best matchups into the field, and that's why maybe you might be a little bit less successful with them. But if we look at like the week 1 classic constructed national championship winners, there is Zens, Chaos, 2 Dash IOs, 2 Enigmas, a Nu, Dorinthia, Kano, Azalea. Like, the heroes are up there, and I recently saw a Victor top 8 somewhere too. It's like the field is wide open, so it depends on your gem pairings a lot, and it depends on how well are you prepared for the popular decks. And if you can beat them, like you can beat everyone. And if you are a good drafter and you just happen to 3-0 your draft, like you're closer to the top 8 than other people who might bring meta decks and they haven't practiced draft and they go 0-3 in draft. And then,
what deck do you think has the biggest surprise potential at the moment?
I think the biggest surprise potential is probably maybe something like Riptide that can really prey on those sends. Maybe it is Dash IO. Honestly, because the deck can be very explosive. Never count out Kano. I think, but those are the decks that come to mind. And I really wanted to make Uzuri work, but I couldn't. It was just a new deck that didn't have
that's kind of like with Uzuri, it's like why not just play new, right?
Yes, I learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with all the decks and all the different builds for all the decks, it's very hard to tech for everything. So I think as always, the take home message is just play the deck that you like to play, enjoy to play, and have the most reps in. And then I think you already have an advantage over most of the field.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in a week we know what I played. Like I hopefully know in less than a week what I will be playing. But every year it's the same struggle, and then the night before I just grab my Kano deck. So maybe this year it will
I mean, you performed really well with Kano last year.
Yeah, the Kindles are sleeved up. But yeah, maybe I want to switch things up, but I'll have to see.
You got 3 foil Kindles?
Yes, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah. Otherwise, that deck cannot be played, right? If it's not all foiled, then what's the point?
The non-foils would be considered marked cards at this stage, I think.
Right.
It's a beautiful deck, though. I will, however, bring a Data Doll Blitz deck in case that I have to drop and will not make top 8. I'll play the PTI tournament, I think, with Data Doll because it will be Blitz and not LL. So, yeah, I think I'll bring the good old Data Doll. Dust it off, and then hopefully honor our first episode ever that Data Doll is confirmed broken.
If you win the PTI event with Data Doll, that would be some great storylines right there.
Man, with the current version of my Data Doll deck, I think I have yet to give up.
Would you put LL points on her with that? This PTI event? No, right?
No.
I don't think it puts. That's kind of the goal, right? Putting LL points on Data Doll. That's we got to do that.
That is on my bucket list. Like
one of us has to do that.
Yeah, I think. So you think I should just not register for a national championship?
ProQuest Plus says 5 points. So
okay. All right. Now we're talking.
And now the PTI events are ProQuest Plus, right?
Yeah. So now catch me practicing Blitz for a week.
Hell yeah, dude, do it.
No, I think. Let's see, maybe 1 or 2 games. Yeah, but I think that's it. Next time we'll give a detailed report about our national championship experience this year. And yeah, talk to you next time.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to this week's show. You can find us on Twitter under the handle @LDFpod, that's LDFPOD, or you can send us an email under questions@ldfpod.com. We're looking forward to hearing from you all and hope you tune in again in 2 weeks when it's time again for the LDF podcast.